Hey guys, if you're anything like me, you really appreciate a nice, tight fence. No one likes a saggy fence. No one likes a saggy anything. Well, maybe some people do. I don't know. Anyhow, I see a lot of stuff online of people building fences and people showing their facilities and everything else, and I think they misinterpret some other people's ideas of a fence. So while I agree with someone like a Greg Judy, who does his rotational grazing with all one strand electric, or just a few acres farm, or various people on there, and they move their animals by one strand of electric, and that works for a divider fence. But you need a good perimeter fence, and all those guys have it, but they don't show it because they just assume everyone knows. But a lot of people don't know. The thing is, you can contain animals with one strand electric for God knows how long. I mean, you might contain them your whole life. Who knows? But all it takes is one time, just one angry heifer, or steer, or bull, or whatever, to go through that one strand of electric, and now your whole herd's following. Whether it be 10, 30, or 100 head, they're following it. And I don't care if it's goats, or horses, or cattle, or dinosaurs. One gets out, they're all going with it. And you can end up with some pretty substantial costs for, if that happens. Not only animals at large fines from just from your local authorities, but if they get into the neighbor's freshly planted cornfield, and now it's too wet, then you get rain and it's too wet for them to get back out and replant. That can get expensive. If they get into, a river or something and mess up the whole riverbed and, infrastructure of the soil or what have you, the DNR can come after you for that. God forbid if they get on the highway and they cause an accident and someone gets hurt. You can't put a price on that. So what a lot of people never think about is their perimeter fence. They only think, they think that one strand will hold it, and it doesn't. So out here, what we like to do is 5-strand electric with 15-foot T-post spacing. And, 5-strand barbed wire, 15-foot T-post spacing with 1 strand of electric. And that'll hold most things. Dinosaurs could probably still get through. I don't know. I haven't tried catching any of them lately, so. But that'll still hold most things. It takes a really angry animal to get through that. And usually when that happens, you just let them keep running. You don't even try and catch it. You don't worry about it. It's not your animal. You never saw it before in your life. You think it might be the neighbor's. So, the start to that is good corner posts. That is your basis of any fence. And even that is something that a lot of people misinterpret. They think you can do a corner post out of a T-post with an angled T-post and with... No, you can't do that. It'll work, but it won't work long. It won't hold up to a 1,000, 1,500, even 2,000 pound animal pushing on it, or pulling, or whatever. You aren't going to be able to stretch your wires tight. Nothing. So what we do here is we auger in power poles. We get power poles from our local power company. They, they'll set them aside for us, and then when they get a trailer load, then we just go and pick them up. We use the bottoms because the bottoms are treated so heavily. And the bottoms are, a good 10, 12-inch post. We auger a hole in the ground 4.5 to 5 feet deep to make sure we are below the frost line. We put our posts in, then we tamp gravel all around it and fill our hole back in. And if it's one, for instance, this is up by the house. I just bought this property about 1.5 years ago, so we're still building fence all over here. But this right up by the house, I don't know if you guys can see my pickups parked right there. Everyone runs up the driveway, Everyone's going to walk past it. As I'm moving animals, they're going to be moved in and out of here, whether it be selling them to someone else that came to the farm, whatever. A lot of people are going to see these posts here. So we put these in last summer, and we let them sit. And I think that's about the best thing you can do with them, is you let them settle for a year, make sure everything is packed in tight around them. And then you come back around, and you pile dirt up around it, you mound up around the base, to make sure that the water runs away from it when it rains. And then you're good to start doing your fence. We don't let all of them sit for a year, but these ones we chose to because they're right up close, and I don't want anyone to see me having a saggy fence. That would be embarrassing. So, once your posts are in, you put a corner post in, put a cross brace, then another bracing post, then diagonally down away from where you're pulling your barbed wire, we run a high tensile wire, I guess, and we put a ratchet on here. So then that way, as our corner post is pulling towards me. Okay guys, so what I'm trying to explain here is when you put your wires on, you're going to be pulling in the direction of the arrows. It's going to pull on this, which is going to push on this cross beam, which is then going to push on this one, which after a few years you end up with this. So we put this angled piece of high tensile in because distance from here to up here, once it tips over, is significantly greater than the distance from here to here. So you put it in from here to here, and you pull it really tight, it'll prevent this. So, just to clarify for some people that might not understand. It'll hold your post vertical for a really long time. So we'll get this first wire pulled. I'll show you guys how we fasten that off and tie it off and everything, and how we pull it tight, and then we'll go from there. Alright guys, it's a new day. Ran into some hiccups yesterday, dead batteries on the tractor, stuff like that. But now we're down at the other end of that run. It's a short little run here, but we're at the other end. You can see I got same thing, same corner post, everything. Birdhouse built by the original owner before he passed. Original owner of the property. And I got the tractor here ready to run the wire out. Got my little tractor, and then we'll get started here. This is how I start my run. I try to plan it so I'm always pulling to a new corner, because when we get down to that corner and I hook the fence stretcher up and you guys kind of see that, you'll realize that it is a bit of a pain to run a fence stretcher when you got all this stuff. So it's easier to start here and go to a new corner than to tie into an existing corner, if you understand what I'm getting at. So we'll get started. So I just got my roll on the back of the little 8N here. This works really well for pulling out wire rather than carrying the damn thing. So I just got that parked there, and we'll get after it over here quick. Okay guys, so important step here is bring your wire on the inside here. So go around this way. You can see I kind of messed that one up here. But go around from the inside and then go out and do 2 loops and then wrap it tight, if that makes sense. Alright, so I got 2 loops. Normally I would measure this to make sure it's at the right height. There's no sense in doing that because I got this other wire here to base it off of, but I want a little bit more of a tail. Probably wouldn't hurt a guy to wear safety glasses when you're doing this, but oh well. So, you got this one coming directly off of this post, aimed directly at our other one, and we're just going to start wrapping. Now it's important that you do nice tight loops here. You know, you don't want to just kind of give her a few whoopsie-doos around it. You want to make sure that you're bending that wire tight around this guy. That way, it will not slip. Alright. Kind of get that roughly where we want it. Now we're ready to pull it out. Go down to the next post. Okay guys, the first step once you get to the other side is look back and realize you left your coffee mug back there on top of that post. So that's step number one. Once you realize that and get a little upsetty spaghetti, then you can get to work. Alright guys, so here I'm just going to use a regular 4-to-1 pulley style fence stretcher. I figure I probably get 1,000–1,500 pounds of pull on it with this guy. Works pretty good. And in between pulls, you do want to walk the fence line and pick it up, pull it out of the weeds and everything, because it will drag on that a lot. You'd be amazed how much extra how much extra drag those weeds cause. In addition to getting it out of the weeds, picking it up like this will tighten up all the braiding in the wire, which will that'll save you a lot of stretch over the years as well if you can get that out right at the beginning. Here we're just gonna go ahead and repeat the same thing we did on the other side there. Just gonna try and go for 2 wraps and then wrap it around the wire. I think I actually do 3 wraps around the post just because I cut some extra here by accident, but that's fine. Again, pay attention, make sure that your wire is leading off of the post on the inside or on the cattle side for obvious reasons. And then just like I said, repeat what you did on the other side. Some people will say that on the end you need to do some sort of a knot or tie it off or something. That is true if you're using old drilling pipe, you know, or if you're using like a small diameter steel pipe. But with these big 12–14 inch wooden posts, you know, all those barbs bite in all the way around, so they're not going to slip. On a small diameter steel post, they will slip, but on something like this, they're not going to slip. So you don't have to mess around trying to do some fancy knot tying trick at the end, because all you're going to do is kink your barbed wire and create a weak point. So now we're just releasing the tension. We're going to start unhooking everything. As you can see, that wire is holding pretty tight there. I will go ahead and put some staples around it. I usually do 2 staples, sometimes 3, depending on how I feel that day. And then I will also put some fence staples on that other post there. Here it's really important that you use your height marker away from the post. If you put it right on the post, you're going to be way off because we have our dirt mounded up around it. Now that we got our first wire on, we can tighten up our cross brace. It's important you get a couple loops of that high tensile around the ratchet. You know, you don't want to have it pulled tight with a half a loop because that will slip eventually. And then from there we'll start laying out T-post here. We have a 16-foot PVC pipe that we just drag along, and that way it's that way we know all of our posts are spaced out properly. and we just keep walking along with that, throw a post down, then we come back and we line it up with our first wire pulled tight to make sure it's in line, and we drive it in. What I typically do is I get a reference point on my t-shirt. Just below my pocket is 4 foot. So with the post pounder on, the top of the post pounder at the top of my pocket puts the post at 4 foot. So that's how I reference and make sure all my posts are in where I want them. So we get those all driven in, and then we'll rinse and repeat with the wire. So once all the posts are pounded, it's just rinse and repeat with the next 4 wires. Pretty straightforward. But I did want to show you guys, Dad came up with this idea here. He took some old calf buckets and drilled holes in them so we can set them on the T-post when we're pulling wires. You set it on top of your first wire when you're pulling your second. You set it on top of your second wire when you're pulling your third, so on and so forth. And they'll sit on the post like this, and they'll keep the wire off the ground, keep it out of the weeds, so you can really pull it tight. That way you can pull all that sag out of it from the get-go, and it's a lot easier to pull a wire tight when you're starting at 4 feet all the way across rather than 4 feet on each end and it's sagging down to the ground in the middle. And it's pretty much inevitable you're going to have to make a splice at some point in time. The way I do those is I make a tight loop on each wire, I hook them, and then I wrap about a 2 foot tail going back on each wire, and I haven't had a splice slip on me yet. Wrap them tight just like you would on a corner post, and they will last a lifetime. So then from here, guys, it's pretty straightforward. You just go out and tie all your wires onto your posts. You can carry a piece of PVC around for your height marker, or you just get a reference point on your fencing pliers of what is 9 inches and use that to space all your wires. You got to be careful with these style of fencing pliers going around putting these clips on, because the way that it's arched there with a sharp point on the top, you can cut your wire. I saw it happen, and it really sucks when you got 1,500 pounds of pull on a wire and your face is right in there and the wire decides to break and let loose right at you. I do want to mention that there is a small mom and pop store that you can get these clips for about 50% of what any local big box store will sell them to me for around here. I'll throw the link for that in my description if they are still selling them. Alright guys, now that we got all our clips on each post, everything's stapled, everything's done, our wires are tight, everything's good. There is one last step. That is to sit back, have a beer, and appreciate the day's work you did. It's a fence you can walk or drive past every day and be proud of. And anyone that pulls in is going to compliment you on it. I've gotten several compliments on ours just from passerbys, on my other side of the driveway there. So, and if you really want to, if a guy were more ambitious than me, you could do it for hire, and you can make a lot of money doing fences like this. So, all that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me with more projects like this, and you guys have a good night.